Well, hello, everybody. It must be Thursday.
How you doing, Ed?
Good. It's been a little busy week this week. A lot of people are looking at buying homes and getting qualified for and getting ready. I have all these things that come in. They're like, when are you looking? Right away, in the next 4 months, in the next 6 months. You know, I mean, and everybody's putting, half of them are putting right away. The other half are putting in 5 months, right? Because it's the holidays, and I think the people don't realize this is like the best time to buy for most buyers. You know.
Yeah, we're always kind of countering those main objections, right? That people, bring up, like listing their home or buying a home during the holidays is like, since when did we ever stop selling homes? Like, right. I guess we're all out of work for 3 months.
Well, some people take off, right? I'm taking off for the holiday. Well, if you're that busy during the year and you made that much money, take off. Leave it for the other people.
Yeah, I guess good for you, right? But in this business, it never stops, right?
Because you don't know what happened next year.
Yeah, well, and people always, you get a job transfer, you can't say, you know what, I'd love to accept this position, but give me 3 months because the real estate market only starts up again in February. So, we were just kind of discussing. There's the article, keeping current matters. They're talking about like the 4 reasons why people want to buy a house, right?
Right.
And for first time home buyers, they're coming to this realization. They're seeing these things and they say, okay, yeah, I get it now. I understand, right?
Well, what's the biggest problem when you rent?
Well, a lack of security, right? Like you never know what your mortgage payment is going to be.
You mean your rent payment?
Or your rent payment. Yeah, sorry.
Or what the landlord's mortgage payment is going to be.
Yeah. But consistency, right?
Right.
Just like with anything, right? It's like when you're a young kid and you start your first job, and after 6 months you leave and go to the next job, and you keep doing that, you'd have been a lot better off sticking around for a few years of that first job, right? And that's the way I see.
People don't know. People don't know. They don't know. If they in a family that they've never owned a home, they don't know, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of first time home buyers are the first generation buying a house.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's people focus more on the negative, right? So like, man, well, this is a 30-year commitment. This is how much my monthly mortgage payment is going to be.
Well, we can make it a 40-year commitment with the first 10 years interest only if you want it longer.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, I guess for those people who are really in it for the long haul, right?
Well, it's about payment. I mean, everybody's like, my payment's so much. I'm against 40-year. I don't care what reason you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're better off doing a 30-year and just buckling up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the main reasons that most people want to buy their own home is for, privacy, right? I mean,
privacy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm being English for a second. Privacy.
Well, I try my British accent, but that my wife says they're terrible.
Okay. So is mine, but I try.
But think about it, as someone who managed, multifamily units, we were required to give you 24-hour notice before entering, but at any time, if we wanted to do an inspection, do a repair, do an improvement, we told you we were coming in. There wasn't like, oh no, it doesn't work for me, because then I would have to say, well, unfortunately, you don't own the place, and it's part of our maintenance procedure. So I just want to give you a heads up. We will be coming in tomorrow,
whether you're there or not. Right?
Yeah. So obviously, if you have a mortgage and, the lender's not going to say, I'm coming into your house tomorrow,
No, they can't even do that at all. There's no reason. I mean, if they only person who wants to inspect it is usually an insurance company. Sorry about that.
No, it's as long as it wasn't me.
No, I didn't know that was connected. The insurance company, they want to investigate the roof or whatever because they're doing insurance, but normally they don't come in the house, right?
Yeah.
So,
obviously, probably the most upfront one is personal expression, right? Just people want to make a home their home, right? They want to make it their own, and truth of the matter is that a lot of the homes I see have similar qualities because we look at the same magazines and internet articles, right?
I don't know, maybe,
but they're comfortable. Every once in a while you see a funky house and you say, maybe you should have just left the way it was. But for the most part,
right.
Obviously, since the community, once, and this doesn't matter if you're, renting a house or living in a house, for some reason, people in apartments, like in multifamily, they don't associate with their neighbors as much. But as far as like single family homes, obviously a lot of times you got to count on your neighbors, right? Like I have a neighbor that lives across the street that I give him a hand lifting heavy stuff all the time, or, if he needs a tool, things like that, or, hey, I'm going to be out of town. Can you wash my dog? Sure. No problem.
Right.
So that's something you get with with home ownership that doesn't necessarily translate with rentals unless you're there for a really long time, because everyone feels like, hey, I'm only here for a little bit, why invest in these neighbors, right?
Well, I also think that a lot of the neighbors irritate them. And, when you're in apartment complexes and stuff like that, they don't really worry about the other people there, right? When you live someplace, everybody cares about their house normally if they own it.
Yeah.
But then, and then they care about their neighbors, right? They want to make sure, that they're there for them.
Yeah. I mean, normally when I'm marketing in a neighborhood, I can tell you which one's a rental and which one is privately owned, right? Or it's the person's primary residence, because just the way it's kept up. Every once in a while, a rental will surprise you and they'll be good, but normally, like very elderly folks and renters have the houses that are kind of in disarray.
Right. Well, unless they just had a pool put in and then they tore up everything out front.
People asking if you're renting.
No, it's just there. Like my neighbor across the street is like, oh, I just thought you were like the house next door. You just not going to take care of your house anymore, your grass anymore, because the house next door is a rental and it looks like it. They have some,
Oh, gotcha.
exes live together with their kids and all the cars, and now they have this huge RV in the driveway.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, when it's like, okay, everybody, and then they do all the stuff they do, right? And I don't complain, but they thought I complained. Like they had a boat out front. Well, somebody complained and they moved it in. And of course, they had to put the little notice towards me. And it's like, I didn't call it in. Yeah. I just told you that somebody's going to call it in if it stays on the street because you're pissing off people.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to turn me in with my trailer because my trailer's been in the front yard for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I had rock in it. They were doing it for the turf. And, it's like the plan. I got to take all these rocks out of there on the way back up. I'm telling my own personal story up to the property and just drop them on the property because you can always use rocks on our property, 32 acres. So I'm going to drop them up there. And it's just one of those things. It's like, where do I don't want to put it in my driveway. Give me a notice. I'll just move it up a few feet. Not like I've done that forever.
Yeah.
So, and it's an ugly trailer because it's got the sides on it for, pine needles.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
For clearing up there, huh?
Yeah. Because that's, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the biggest thing we were talking about buying and stuff. And I don't know if I told this to you or what this week, but back in 2007, we had 4 million homes for sale. And now we only have 1.22 million for sale nationwide.
Yeah.
And we don't have, and then at the same time, builders were extremely building and they're not now. They've held back. And that's important to know this because that's going to show a shortage again. We're still going to have the original shortage of 4.5 million that we had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we're going to add all these additional months of shortages that they didn't build these homes going forward. So before you know, we're going to be 5 million homes short. We're not going to catch up. Yeah. So right now is the perfect time to buy because people are nervous and they think it's going to bottom and go, drop 20, 30%. It's not going to do that.
No,
not in California. No. Definitely not in Modesto.
Yeah.
We used to build 1,000 homes a year. We built 100 homes a year. There's your problem.
Yeah. I could say the only people you hear saying that the market's going to tank are the people that want to buy when it, because they think they're going to buy the dip, right?
Well, the investors are like, it's going to tank. So
just
you guys don't buy.
Yeah.
You guys don't buy. Okay. All right, buy. Do everybody get in there, buy that for me.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's all these investors are buying right now. And because some people say mom and pop investors and institutionalized investors are not buying. Not true. Institutionalized investors are going to the builders and saying, hey, build these out for us. We're going to rent. We're going to buy this whole thing built to rent. Just finish them up for me. Us. We're going to buy them all from you.
Oh, man. I'd hate to see that development in 20 years,
It's Pottersville, dude.
Yeah, I know. I can only imagine, because there. I think we've discussed this tract of homes, but it's over. Yeah, I won't call it out, but so it was a development that was built in like the late 90s,
mm-hmm.
and it's the strangest. It's the most bizarre thing, right? It was built in an area that they should not have just given them building permits because it's kind of by a water treatment plant.
Okay.
And so it's these homes that you can tell are not newer or not older. Like the neighborhood's it shouldn't be as run down it is. And it looks like it's been around for 100 years. Just the wear and tear on this neighborhood, man. And that's because most people didn't, buy. A lot of people just bought it cheap as an investment and they use it as rentals. So.
You're talking about back in the downturn? They bought them cheap? there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people bought a lot of cheap homes, and then they're all rentals now.
Yeah.
And some of them sold them and transferred into other stuff. Other people still have those homes. And until those homes get turned, and they're not going to probably get turned to anything because the rents are going up, and rents will always go up because of the fact that we don't have enough rentals and not enough homes to buy. It's a bad story in California. Other places, they built a lot of homes and you can get them cheap now, cheaper.
So one thing I'm curious about too, like when I look at these new developments going, is like, how much demand, or is demand decreasing with buyers because the lots are ever shrinking in the homes? The
demands only stop because of the rates.
Yeah, right. I wonder, like, how many buyers really like purchasing a new home with no yard?
Well, it depends. Do you have, how many kids do you have? Are you most millennials, and I'm just generic, this is what I read, say they don't want to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
They want to own a home, but they don't want to deal with the yard. They want to deal with this. And so the zero lot lines that sold before were, people loved them, right? And because they didn't have to deal with stuff. Well, I want so much of a yard. I want to have a pool in my backyard. I want to have a barbecue area in my backyard. You know what I mean? I want to have certain things.
Yeah.
Because I'm older and I want to entertain, but some people just don't want that. So the newer homes have small backyards, but they still have a backyard.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing too that I run into from time to time with buyers, is they'll tell me, like, I don't want to buy anything that's old. Right?
What's old?
When I ask them, okay, well, what's your time period, right? And so they go, oh,
90s,
or even like, nothing older than the 80s. And I go, is there any reason why? I'm like, oh yeah, well, old houses have
need
problems.
Work.
Yeah. I said, well, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of inferior products that are being used on new construction or experimental products, right?
Or nobody's the guy that comes out and investigates each day was drunk last night, and he comes out and he doesn't sign off, and he's the foreman or whatever it is. He's not on top of his thing that day and making sure everything was done to that house that's supposed to be done. The reason I say that is the house my wife bought before me, the upper bathroom leaked into the lower bathroom because they never put a wax ring in.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Little things.
Yeah. That's a
$4 item, whatever. Yeah. So I'm getting at is, yes, right, with your point, and I wasn't trying to stop you, but you're right. Just because they're old doesn't mean they have issues. A lot of times that issues have been dealt with and fixed, and they keep fixing them and keep them up to date. But newer homes can have the same problem.
Oh yeah.
The question really is, do you want a backyard or no backyard?
Yeah. Well,
that's the age of the home.
So, for me, I love the architecture of older homes. So, and I can work on a home, so that doesn't intimidate me, but I can understand it especially from like say like a single mom's point of view. Mm-hmm. They want something that's new, and they know they can put some miles on it before it's going to have any issues. And for the most part, that's the case, but just don't talk yourself out of an older home if you like the neighborhood, because most of them are raised foundation and a lot easier to work on.
Those are the 50s.
Yeah,
really late 50s
and back, right?
Yeah, late 50s and back. Yeah, because that's what we have, and thank goodness, because when we had to make all those changes that we needed to do,
mm-hmm.
we didn't have to rip out any foundation. It was underneath the house.
Yeah,
somebody had to crawl underneath there, not me, but somebody did to do all that work and was underneath there for days.
Something you don't hear a whole lot about, right? Is slab leaks, right? So people.
Oh yeah, I was in Southern California, knew the people real well, and they were walking, and they're like, "It's really warm here by the laundry room."
Yeah. Is it getting a little wet too?
No, it was under the foundation.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, like, a lot of times if there's a crack, the water.
There's no crack. It just was broken underneath there, and they could feel the warmth. So after a while, that it's going to erode the dirt and everything, and then definitely will crack.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I'm gonna say I dealt with that at the apartments quite a few times. I'd say at least a dozen times where, there's a hot spot, and it's because of the hot water line. And sometimes, it'd be like that where it wouldn't perk up, but you're like, man, why is the floor like 95 degrees?
Right.
And then it's a big nightmare because you don't want to jackhammer up the foundation or anything like that. So then you got to reroute through the ceiling, and you got all kinds of holes cut. So with raised foundation, it's pretty easy. You just get under there and replace it.
They cut up the foundation on that other one.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. Cut it and fixed it and re-poured.
Wow. That's the hard way to do it, man.
Well, depends.
Well, how long ago was that?
That was a while.
Okay. I was going to say, because now with PEX, man, they just, It's so
they
easy.
didn't have PEX back then.
Yeah,
20 years, 30 years ago.
Yeah, so then they
20
would have had
years.
to solder stuff in the ceiling. That's more of a hazard.
Yeah, that new plastic stuff that's rounded where you just roll. It's like, wow, didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have rats.
That's the only downside, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise, great product.
Right. Well, I mean, just make sure your covers are on all your outside, vents for under the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got rid of all the trees, so we don't have that problem anymore. But see, in the older part of Modesto, and we're going to have to get off here because it's been a while.
Oh, wow.
The issue is rats, right? Rats are all over Modesto, and every city has them. People don't realize this. They run the power lines. So one thing that's nice about the newer stuff is when the power lines are underground, but that's only recent. That's not forever.
Yeah.
Right. And so that I wish they would have put them underground, but the problem in our alley that's no longer there, the sewer line's there.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of
yeah, that's where all the utilities are ran in the older neighborhoods.
Yes and no. Our front, and I always thought our sewer was in the front because there's a sewer line in the front.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that's for the people across the street and the people behind them.
Ah, no kidding.
Yeah. It's like, really? It's like, oh yeah, sewer line in the alley. Right. They didn't do it on the insulin, but in the other, it's like, it makes no sense, but that's what are you going to do when they build cities out? Sometimes they don't make sense.
Yeah. And see mine, the sewer's in the street and the water's in the driveway or in the alley.
Yeah. Well, I'd much rather have the water in the alley than a sewer line, but it wouldn't cost me so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for letting us go on and on and on today. And like we said, it's the perfect time to buy. I know you keep hearing this from us. We're not trying just to sell you something. We know going forward, it's going to be so much harder to get into homes, and so many people are going to want to because rates are so much lower. You can always refinance. So again, thanks for watching, and we really appreciate it. Thanks, Bobby, for being